So we're back in the main scene again. This is myscene.unity, and there's just a couple of things that we need to finish off. First of all, when the player actually enters one of these save zones, they need to know what to do. Okay, so we need to give them some sort of message that says press S to save, and then give them some kind of a text indication to say, yep, you've done that and everything's good. The second thing that we need to do, if I just find the canvas, we've also got the controls panel. I just put this on and try and switch everything else off. So switch that one off, and the options they always come back on. Okay, we can see the controls. Everything's good there. The O for options, we've done that. S for save game. What we've not done here is give the player a way that they can basically quit out of the game back to the menu. So that's probably what we need to add actually. So if I click on controls panel and just go to the text number 1, and I'm going to add that. I'm going to say right at the bottom, just after O for options, I'm going to say M for menu, or go back to menu. Okay, because obviously if the player decides, right, okay, I actually just want to get out of this and quit the game, they need an option to do that. Alright, so that's what we're going to be doing as well. But for now, let's just work on this save zone part. Switch that back on, that's fine. Okay, so when the player actually enters one of these save areas, let me just get a little bit closer. We obviously have the save zone, that's detecting when the player is in there, and we have the save location. We don't have to worry about this one. For the save zone cube, as soon as they enter into this, we can actually switch a message on the screen. So let's create that message now. So on the canvas, we're going to create a new UI and a new panel, and we'll call this one save message. Okay, just like that, save message. So now when we go over to our game screen, we can see this. Now we don't want this save message in front of everything else. In fact, I might just move it slightly in front of the hurt panel, and I'm going to reduce the opacity on this, so all the way down to 0, and I'm going to right click, choose UI and text, and we probably want to make that text a lot bigger. I'm going to go with the white like I've done before, and the font size for this I'm going to increase to about 22. In fact, I might make it slightly bigger, so 24. Okay, I think that's pretty good. And obviously just change the text, so it says press S to save. Okay, now I need to take my rect tool, go back to my scene, to the double click on canvas so that I can see this. And click on the text itself, onto the rect tool, and obviously we just need to make this bigger so that we can see it. Okay, might just extend this out like this. So press S to save. Great. Now we are going to be controlling this with a script instead of just setting it manually like this. Okay, but for now, just so that we can see where it is, it's not so bad. It looks like it's centered, so it looks relatively good. Now what we want to do is, in the My Scripts folder, is we want to find the player health script. Let's just double click on this. And we're going to do something very similar to this, whereby we're actually going to set the script using some code. Okay, so back into the My Scripts folder, right click, choose create, and it's a C# script. And we'll call this one save text. Oh, I called it save test by accident. It is actually meant to be save text. Okay, so I'm just going to open this one, and I'll just change the public class name as well to save text. Great, so we're using UI, so it's using Unity Engine .ui. Okay, and let's take a look at our oh, I think it closed it down actually, so let's take a look at our player health text. Okay, so using Unity Engine UI, now we have to serialize a field so that we can get some text, and we can actually just copy this line, go over to our save text, just put it in there, and instead of PH text we'll call it save text. In fact, we'll call it saved text, and then it's not the same as the public class. Now on the start, we actually just want it to say this, press S to save. Okay, so on the start then we're going to say saved text dot text, because that's what we need to actually affect, equals, and then inside of quotation marks press S to save, and we'll put a semicolon on the end. Okay, so that will actually set that text to say that. Now under the update we want to say if input dot get key down, it's right at the bottom there, get key down, key code, and it's .s. Okay, if that's the case, then obviously we're going to change our message. So it's saved text dot text equals, and we'll say save successful. Okay, and then obviously the player then knows that they've actually saved their game. It will display that message until the player actually leaves the object, and we may need to revert back to this save text.text, press S to save, so we may need to use some kind of a coroutine in there just to reset it, but for now at least they have a message that their save was successful. And so once it's displayed this message, we probably want it to display that for about 1 second and then go back to this press S to save, or we could switch the message off for so long and then for it to come back, but I think I'll just revert back to that press S to save. Okay, so we want to start a coroutine. Start coroutine, we need to give it a name. We'll say message wait, and we'll just put a semicolon on the end. Okay, so now we'll create that message. It's an I enumerator. There it is, and it is called message wait. Okay, now it needs a yield. Yield return new, and it's going to be a wait 4 seconds, and we're saying roughly about 1 second. Okay, now it's up to you whether you choose to put F on there or not, as in a float. It's probably good practice to put an F on there, unless it's an integer and then it doesn't need an F, but wait for second is usually a kind of a float, I think. It depends if you want it, for example, for half a second you would definitely need the F. If it's integers like 1, 2, 3, 4, you probably wouldn't. Okay, so it's going to wait for 1 second, and then we're going to copy this line, and we're going to change it back to press S to save. Okay, great, so it's going to do that. So the next time that you enter a save zone or something like that, it should automatically say press S to save until you press the S key. It's going to display this message for about 1 second and then go back to press S to save. So let's save this, and while we've got the text selected under the save message, let's drag this script, the save text, onto the text object. And it's saying it needs to know what text to affect, and it is obviously going to be itself. And there we go. Alright, so now we should have our press S to save, save successful, and then back to press S to save.